And we are here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Also, hit that bell icon so you never miss any one of my videos. Also, please like and share this video so we can help the podcast grow. And please follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Lopes Goes Last podcast on Facebook and at Lopes Goes Last on Twitter. Links to those will be down in the description below, as always. So, let's jump right in with the New England Patriots. I want to start out talking about, just kind of where I think the Patriots should go from here. They've had a pretty darn good offseason so far. I think maybe not necessarily the biggest move, but if you guys watched the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I did, in fact, sort of become a fortune teller. Just a little bit, and basically predicted the Patriots re-signing Jonathan Jones, which I thought was fantastic. Obviously, it made me feel pretty nice to kind of want that and put that video out there, and right before the video came out, he actually did re-sign, so that's nice. Yeah, I'm thinking, well, if I predicted that, maybe lightning will strike twice. So here's where I think the Patriots should go from here. I, Tyler Lopes, some random guy in Greenville, South Carolina, who has no bearing on what the Patriots do or do not do, I would like the Patriots to trade for either DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy. Now, they have been linked to both players throughout the last couple of weeks since free agency started, but obviously no move has materialized as of yet. Now, I would like both, but that's just crazy, right? But anyway, no, that is crazy. I would take either one. I really would. Now, I think that Jerry Jeudy is probably the better long-term play, just due to his age, if anything. Obviously, significantly younger than DeAndre Hopkins at this point. But DeAndre Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins. Now, he's struggled with injury the last couple of years, and obviously he's not getting any younger. I think he's 34, 35 at this point. But, again, he's still DeAndre Hopkins. And when he did play last year, he was a number one wide receiver, and he put up number one wide receiver numbers. He just couldn't stay on the field. So it was one of those things where, if you're getting DeAndre Hopkins, you hope and you pray that he stays healthy. You hope and you pray that he stays on the field. Because if he stays on the field, he's an absolute force. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when healthy. So I would love for the Patriots to get him. Now, I don't know how true these rumors are, but the rumor mill has suggested that the Patriots have offered a second and a fourth round pick for Jerry Jeudy, and the Broncos have said no to that, which, fine. That seems like a reasonable trade, but I don't blame the Broncos for wanting to try and get more. I honestly think that would be a fair price for Jerry Jeudy, especially if his contract is coming up. I'm not 100% sure on his contract situation, but I know that he's going to want to get paid whenever his contract is up. And he's been in the league for a few years now, so I wouldn't be surprised if either this was his last year or next year was his last year, whatever it is. So again, I think that a second round and a fourth round pick would be fair. I don't blame the Broncos for wanting to try and get a first-round pick. He's a dynamic, young wide receiver, and those don't come around every day, although they seem to come around a little bit more often than they have in the past, unless, of course, you're the Patriots, who don't draft wide receivers, and even when they do, they're N'Keal Harry. But anyways, I would say that what I want the Patriots to do the most this offseason, after everything they've already done, even since my trade, or not my trade, but my free agency grading video, if you guys haven't seen it, go check that out. The Patriots have made some more moves. They signed Mike Gesicki from the Dolphins, who is one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL. He just can't block at all, so he's kind of limited in terms of what you can do, but you can play him in the slot, you can play him outside. He's really a dynamic wide receiver, honestly, more than a tight end. They signed James Robinson, who ran for over 1,000 yards a couple of years ago, and then last year, pretty injury-plagued season for him, but you know what? That happens with running backs. And obviously the Jaguars have Travis Etienne, and Jets traded for James Robinson last year, and he didn't do all that much with them either. Granted, the offense for the Jets was anemic last year. It was horrible. Signing him is great. Signing Mike Gesicki is great. They cut Jalen Mills and then re-sign Jalen Mills to, I guess, a cheaper contract. I'm not really sure the specifics of Jalen Mills' old contract. I know that his contract was 6 years, 24 million, or excuse me, 4 years, 24 million, so 6 million per year. My apologies for misspeaking there, but yeah, so I know that it was 4 years, 24 mil, which is 6 mil a year. Now I have no idea if that contract was backloaded or how necessarily that contract was structured. I don't know. Maybe he could have had, they could have been paying him $9 million this year before. I'm not really sure. But nonetheless, they released him and then re-signed him, and his cap hit is less now. That is the entire point, so I guess that's nice. Because, listen, I don't have anything against Jalen Mills per se, but he's certainly not the best. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think he's very good. I don't think he's very bad, but I don't particularly think he's good or great either. So I think that he gives good depth to our defensive back room. He's obviously a veteran, and apparently they're going to move him to safety, which I think probably fits him better at this point. I think that his cover skills are a bit lacking, but if he's kind of just covering an area, or if he's covering guys that are already down the field, he doesn't have to cover as much ground. I think that that's probably a little bit better for him at this point in his career. Plus, with Devin McCourty retiring, we do have a spot back there, so it'll lead to more playing time. I would like to see Jabril Peppers get some more playing time as well, so I don't know how that dynamic's going to play. But the Patriots do oftentimes play with 3 safeties on the field. Kyle Duggar, Devin McCourty, and obviously last year with Jabril Peppers. So I assume it'll be similar this year as well. But I think that the Patriots have done a great job this offseason. I think that the draft is going to excite me. Are they going to take a tackle in the first round? Are they going to take a wide receiver in the first round? I would love for Jackson Smith-Njigba to still be there and for the Patriots to snag him. But I have a feeling he probably won't be there at 14 after his fantastic pro day. But nonetheless, I would love the Patriots to add one more dynamic weapon to that receiver room. I think our tight end room with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki is very, very good. I think that is a legitimate 2 tight end set. Sorry, Jonnu Smith. I really believed in you, man. People who watch this channel knew I loved Jonnu Smith. I was a big fan of him at Tennessee, and I thought that they didn't utilize him properly. Well, if that was the problem, then maybe the Patriots didn't utilize him at all. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that he ended up doing very well. He never picked up the system. They never really trusted him. And, whether that's the fault of the organization, the player, or both, who knows? But either way, it just didn't work out. So it's clearly an upgrade. I mean, if Mike Gesicki gets 300 yards this season, I'm pretty sure it'd be an upgrade. So I'm hoping he does a lot more than that. But either way, another dynamic weapon there. Good tight end room with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. You still have Devontae Parker. You still have Kendrick Bourne. You have, I almost said Tristan Thompson. That's not the right person. Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor. Obviously, second-round pick for the Patriots last year. I'm hoping he gets some more playing time this year. Hoping another year in the system, he'll be able to blossom. You lost Jacoby Myers, but you replaced him with Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a good receiver as well. Good dynamic guy that you could put in the slot, you could put outside. He consistently gets open, which is something that, honestly, Patriots wide receivers don't do a lot. They don't typically get open a ton. They're not very good at separating recently. So, I'd love the Patriots to get one more dynamic weapon and add that to their receiver room. And ideally, I'd like it to be DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy. Now, ideally, as in 1A, go get Jerry Jeudy, man. I mean, that sounds awesome. I think the more realistic play is probably to get DeAndre Hopkins. I'm hearing rumors that that people are wanting, 5th round pick, 6th round pick for him. I think that would just be criminal for DeAndre Hopkins. Not quite as bad as what he was traded for to get to the Cardinals, which is basically a bag of peanuts and a half-broken light bulb. Half-broken light bulb. Honestly, if a light bulb's half-broken, it's probably completely broken. So we'll just say broken light bulb. Let's just make it nice and easy. Anyway, so yeah, I would say probably it's more likely that DeAndre Hopkins gets traded to the Patriots, which I would love. I love DeAndre Hopkins on the Patriots. I would just hope that he could stay healthy consistently. And then, if the Patriots want to draft another wide receiver or two in the draft, even if it's 2nd round, 3rd round, That's a pretty reasonably deep wide receiver class this year. So, I'd be fine with that. I think that the more weapons you have on your team, the better. Obviously, we see that in the AFC. All the good teams in the AFC have a ton of weapons other than the Ravens. But, yeah, I would love the Patriots to trade for DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy. And I've been a fortune teller once, so I'm shooting my shot. Let's hope it happens again. Transitioning on to the Dallas Mavericks. This is going to be a bit of a tough one. The Dallas Mavericks just continue to disappoint. Now listen, I understand that Luka Doncic has been hurt for the last, I think, 5 or 6 games or so. And then Kyrie Irving is now, I'm not sure what's going on with Kyrie Irving right now. I know he didn't play last night as of time of recording when they lost to the Warriors. So I'm not necessarily sure what's going on, if he's hurt again or if he was resting. I don't know. And so, you know what? Fair play. Maybe Kyrie and Luka have not had enough time on the court together to kind of gel and to figure it all out. And as I said a few weeks ago when I did my Dallas Mavericks and Phoenix Suns kind of a deal there, when I did that clip and obviously that podcast, I talked about how the rest of the Mavericks team outside of really Christian Wood is not very good. I mean, I don't really believe in anybody else that plays for them. Maxi Kleber's fine, I guess. Dwight Powell is fine, I guess. I mean, there's just not a lot of really solid talent that if one of those guys are missing or one of those guys are not performing, that you could pick up the pieces. Let's compare it to the Boston Celtics, let's say. Jason Tatum is having a bad night. Jaylen Brown can step up and carry the load. Jaylen Brown is having a bad night. Jason Tatum can step up. Now, you can have the same thing with Luka, right? And Kyrie. If they're both on the court together, one of them's having a bad night, one of them's not. Fine. Completely agree. But what happens if both of them are having rough nights? Well, if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both having a rough night, then you have Al Horford, who can pick up some scoring. You have Marcus Smart, who, when he's not horrible, he can pick up some scoring. You have Derek White, who this year has vastly improved his offensive game. He can pick up some scoring. You have Malcolm Brogdon, who comes off the bench and is in running for 6th Man of the Year this year and might actually win the darn thing if he's not careful. He can pick up some scoring. He's shooting like almost 50% from 3 this year. And you know what? You have other role guys that can come in, like Sam Hauser, who's good at knocking down the 3. You obviously have Robert Williams. He's not necessarily a scorer, but maybe he could pick up some facilitation, get some easy lobs, some dunks. He could take you from 4 points all the way up to 12 or 15 if you're not careful. And then obviously all the other guys that I mentioned, right? And I'm sure there's other people that I'm leaving out. But when you look at the Mavericks, who is going to step up when both of those guys are having a tough night? Or if one of them is not playing, because Luka has not been the most durable superstar. He has at times missed a handful of games here or there. I'm not saying he's injury prone or injury plagued by any means, but he has missed some significant time over the last couple of years. So when he's not playing, it's all on Kyrie. He's not getting any help from anywhere. Yeah, sure, Christian Wood might be able to step up a little bit, but think of all the guys that I said for the Celtics. You've got 3 or 4 legitimate guys that if both your superstars are not performing, or if one of them is hurt, you've got 3 or 4 legitimate guys that you can say, yeah, pretty consistently these guys are going to step their scoring up if Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown are not performing right. Whereas the Dallas Mavericks, you've got Christian Wood. Fine, that's fair. He's very good offensively. Who else is going to step up? Maxi Kleber? I don't know how much you can count on that very, very, consistently. I don't know. They don't really have anybody right now for me that can step up when those guys are not either healthy or not on the court, or if they're struggling, whatever it is. I just don't think the Mavericks have enough depth. So you can make that argument. All that to say, you can make the argument, look, they just, they haven't played together. They're not on the court, so the team's bad. because they don't have a lot of depth. Fair enough. That's a fair argument. I'm just getting a little bit worried. Now, again, maybe I shouldn't be worried. Maybe I just need to wait and see for them both to be on the court consistently, and then maybe they'll put it together. But right now, they're on the outside looking in. I think they're the 9 or 10 seed at this point. They're barely making the play-in. And that's a shame considering the Dallas Mavericks made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. That is a shame. Because I'd love to see Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic battle it out together in the playoffs. I think that'd be fun to watch at the very least, even if they don't end up winning anything. But right now, they just haven't been on the court enough. They haven't played together enough. And you know what? Luka's missed the last 5 games, and they went 2-3. So it's not like they went 0-5 without Luka and are just atrocious. So for me, yeah, they might not have the best depth, but I don't know if they're the worst team in the league without Luka or Kyrie or vice versa, however you want to place that. I don't know that. I also don't know if they're really good either. I think they're pretty much exactly where they were before the trade. They're okay. They may end up being a top 6 seed in the West, which is a shame because I had them at 4. But obviously, that's all subjective, and obviously they haven't been on the court together enough for me to really see how good they could be. So maybe they could be fantastic with each other and with really no other help. But until I see it, I'm going to stick to the argument that the Dallas Mavericks are, quite frankly, very disappointing. I'm very, very excited to talk about this. The World Baseball Classic just concluded last night, 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago, I don't know, whatever it was, a couple of days ago, very recently at the time of recording. And wow, I mean, how can you just not love baseball after watching the World Baseball Classic? It was such a great event and such a good time, and just the fans are amazing. The players, you could just see their energy and feel their energy. You could just see that they're rejuvenated, like they're falling, almost like they're falling back in love with the game again. Not that they don't love the game of baseball. Obviously, just about every Major League Baseball player loves the game, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But it's a different level. And if you haven't watched the World Baseball Classic before or didn't watch this one, you might not really fully understand what I'm talking about, but it's amazing. At the very least, watch highlights on ESPN or MLB.com, or just go on YouTube and watch some highlights. I'm sure there's plenty of videos that show you, all the really cool plays, and just feel the energy of the crowd, feel the energy of the players. It's really, really a sight to see. It's truly amazing. I know some people that I know actually got a chance to go to some World Baseball Classic games this year, and I just can't imagine being in that atmosphere. It must be really, truly amazing. But nonetheless, World Baseball Classic just wrapped up, and I want to go through the top 5 stories that I feel are relevant coming out of the World Baseball Classic. Now, there might be some general consensus on these, and there might be some disagreements, but these, for me, are the 5 things that stood out over the World Baseball Classic, and don't worry, we'll get to Shohei Ohtani at some point. Number 5, by the way, these are going to be in order of, least important stories to most important stories. Maybe not important, but, least, talked about story and most talked about story, I would say. All right. Number 5, I'm going to give it to Team Mexico. Now, this might just be me. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I didn't look at the rosters close enough or anything like that, but I didn't really give Mexico much of a shot in this tournament. I didn't really think that they would be as good as they were. I thought that, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, all those teams would be better than they were, and they weren't. So, maybe Venezuela. But either way, Mexico, quite frankly, to me, not overperformed, but surprised me. I didn't think that they would get as far as they did, and they darn near beat Japan. It took a walk-off for Mexico to lose to Japan. Really, really fun. Awesome to see for Mexico. And it gives that team, stuff to build off of in the future. But again, it did kind of surprise me. There were certainly some other surprises. in this that go along with that, which we'll get to in a moment. But I think that Mexico getting as far as they did, again, maybe I missed it. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it surprised me. So that's my number 5 story. Number 4 is Trey Turner. I very easily could make this number 3, maybe even number 2, but I'm going to put it at number 4. Trey Turner was absolutely on fire during the World Baseball Classic. I think he hit 5 home runs, something like that. Just absolutely carried that United States offense, which is pretty amazing considering the talent that the United States had on offense, including, but not limited to, Michael Trout. So, you got the best player in the world, arguably, on your team, and you, as Trey Turner, are carrying that offense that other guy's on. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, Trey Turner absolutely dominated. It was really, really fun to watch. At one point, it felt like every single time he stepped up to the plate, he was going to go yard. So, yeah, a lot of fun. Congrats to Trey Turner. I wish, obviously, that the United States would have brought it home again, but obviously they fell 1 run short. But nothing to be ashamed of, especially for Trey Turner. Trey Turner did literally everything he possibly could to get the United States over the hump. It just didn't work out. So congrats, Trey Turner, and I'm hoping he carries that into the season, because if he does, the Phillies are going to be real, real dangerous. Number 3 story that I want to talk about is the Dominican Republic disappointment. Yeah, what happened? I mean, I feel like the Dominican Republic team was stacked with talent on all sides, and they just underperformed. It just did not work out for the Dominican Republic, and they have to be, and I'm sure they are, wildly disappointed that they didn't really represent their country, and I'm sure the way that they wanted to. Now, I'm obviously not going to sit here and try and pretend like I know what it's like to defend my country like that. I certainly do not. But I'm sure that if you had asked anybody on the Dominican Republic before it started, yeah, if you don't make the quarterfinals, are you going to feel proud of how you performed in this tournament? I feel like they would all say no, and they'd probably all laugh thinking, yeah, we're not going to make the quarterfinals. That's funny. Well, they didn't. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to say that they didn't really let people down. Again, I kind of hesitate saying that because, like, who am I to say that, right? But, I mean, I feel like, at the very least, they probably feel like they did, or at least they let themselves down, let their teammates down. But either way, yeah, they have to be one of the most disappointing teams in the history of the World Baseball Classic. I mean, you talk about a team that was stacked at every position, just about, and didn't even make the quarterfinals. I mean, that to me, that is not a shame. I would have liked to see them get farther just because they would have had fun games as well, but it's just, it's kind of disappointing. It's kind of disappointing that they didn't really get there and get as far as what all of us probably thought that they would. So that's my number 3 story. Number 2, a story that very easily could be number 1, and maybe even in hindsight, the most people are talking about it, so maybe it is even number 1, but I'm going to put it at number 2, and that's the Edwin Diaz injury. Obviously, Edwin Diaz celebrating with his teammates. All of a sudden, his knee his patellar tendon just rips right off in the middle of a celebration after he closed. I forget who they played in that game. It might have even been the Dominican Republic. I don't remember. I think it actually was the Dominican Republic, but yeah, either way, just a shame. I mean, obviously he just got a huge contract extension. I think he's the highest paid closer in baseball, other than maybe Liam Hendricks, who also is off doing cancer treatments now. He's not even going to play this year. So 2 highest paid closers in the game, I think, are not going to play this year. So really, really sad stuff, and then obviously the backlash, right? There's a lot of people who say, oh, see, this is why you can't have nice things. The World Baseball Classic should be canceled. It's the World Baseball Classic's fault. And now the MLB teams aren't going to have their best players go there and blah, blah, blah. And just, blaming the World Baseball Classic for this injury would be like blaming spring training for Gavin Lux tearing his ACL sliding into second base. It's just, no, like, that's not how it works. Or blaming, I just saw, it looks like Rhys Hoskins might have just blew out his knee during spring training today. Are you going to blame spring training for blowing out Rhys Hoskins' knee, or are you just going to accept the fact that baseball has injuries? And these... Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on in my throat today. But these these things happen in spring training. These things happen in the World Baseball Classic. These things happen in baseball. It's just the way it goes. I played baseball up until 2 years ago, since I was 4 years old. I played for almost 20 years. I have had injuries. I've been lucky enough to not have very many injuries on the baseball field. I've had injuries playing other sports, but I've only really had one major injury, and unfortunately, it's the one that ended up kind of costing me my arm and kind of costing me my senior year of college and just a whole mess. But that's the one injury I had, but it still proves the fact. Sometimes you just get hurt. Sometimes you just get injured. And I've had some minor injuries. I've had strained my flexor tendon. I've had to get my arm checked all throughout high school because I've had strains and, pulled muscles and just general pain. And obviously there's just a whole lot that goes into that. I had some ankle issues early on in high school. So injuries are just a part of it. You never want to see it. You never root for it, and of course you never hope that it happens to prove a point. But blaming the World Baseball Classic is not going to solve anything. And I'm very happy that Rob Manfred has already announced the World Baseball Classic is coming back in 2026 because, look, again, condolences and apologies to Edwin Diaz for the injury. It certainly sucks, especially, not in game action. It's just a complete freak accident. And that's another thing, right? Like, it wasn't even in the game. It was just a celebration. And, people were saying, oh, see, he got hurt celebrating, and you don't celebrate like that in spring training, so you should have just stayed at spring training. Well, didn't the Mets, celebrate a walk-off and dog pile or something? Whatever it was, the Mets also celebrated, and you know what? He plays for the Mets, so maybe he'd gotten hurt that way too. You can't make that argument. You can't say that it was the World Baseball Classic's fault. It's just ridiculous. And I'm very happy the World Baseball Classic's coming back. But again, condolences to Edwin Diaz for just blowing out his knee and his patellar tendon. And that's a gnarly injury too. Tearing your ACL is one thing, but tearing your patella tendon is like tearing your kneecap in half. Patella tendon is that giant kind of cushion in the front of your knee. And if you tear that, I mean, your leg is useless. Obviously, with your ACL, your leg is useless too, and it hurts and everything. But patella tendon is gnarly, man. That's a brutal injury. So, again, I hope Edwin Diaz makes a full recovery. Again, he got a huge contract extension this year, so I'm hoping that he's the same exact dominant pitcher as when he left, and I'm hoping that next year we'll be hearing those trumpets as he trots onto the field and he shuts somebody down very, very soon. And the number one story coming out of the World Baseball Classic, I think this is a pretty obvious one, and that is Japan and their dominance. Now, the last couple of games in the semifinals and finals, respectively, they weren't necessarily dominant. It took them a walk-off against Mexico to advance to the finals, and then obviously only beating the United States by 1 run in the finals, so it's not like those were completely dominant wins. However, Japan, they were a lot of fun to watch, and you can tell that they loved playing the game with each other. It was just such a good time to watch Japan, and obviously it was a good time to watch every team. It's just, I can't even describe the feeling to all of you that haven't watched it necessarily. It's just a different feeling than what you get watching regular baseball. So, unfortunately now we're gonna have to watch regular baseball, the Orioles and Royals play each other in Baltimore, and there's gonna be 3,000 people in the stadium, if that, and it's just gonna be silence. It's not gonna be very fun. So either way, it's just one of those things where, if you don't watch the World Baseball Classic, if you haven't watched the World Baseball Classic, it's wonderful, it's lovely, and it's darn near perfect, quite frankly. So, yeah, Japan dominating for the most part in the World Baseball Classic doesn't come as a surprise to me. There's a lot more Japanese talent that it's going to be coming over to the major leagues. Japan has always had a mighty presence in the World Baseball Classic and in just the game of baseball in general. And now more and more Japanese athletes are getting the opportunity to showcase that. Masataka Yoshida for the Red Sox had a fantastic World Baseball Classic, had a few really key hits and home runs for them. Munetaka Murakami had a fantastic World Baseball Classic as well. Had a bunch of key hits for them. Roki Sasaki, a 21-year-old pitching phenom, was unbelievable lights out for them. And so, yeah, I mean, Team Japan, absolutely incredible. And yet, even more incredible, well, maybe not even more incredible, but just as incredible, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, I said it before the World Baseball Classic even started. Shohei Ohtani was winning World Baseball Classic MVP, and lo and behold, Shohei Ohtani wins the World Baseball Classic MVP. Now, I'm not going to say, that I 100% knew it was going to happen, but it just made the most sense, and Japan being as flawless and dominant as they were, it just made too much sense. He hit lights out. He pitched lights out. It, quite frankly, was a bit of an unfair advantage, again, as I said in that video. But either way, Team Japan, definitely the number one story for me coming out of the World Baseball Classic. Last but not least, today I'm going to be talking about the Aaron Rodgers and New York Jets saga that is continuing to go on as we speak. So, for those of you who have not been paying attention, Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee's podcast and said that he plans on playing for the New York Jets in 2023. Now, there's only one problem with that. He is under contract with the Green Bay Packers for a ton of money. So, it's tough because now you have to trade him to the Jets, which sounds like a no-brainer, right? Hey, he wants to play for the Jets want him to play for them, so let's make it happen. Here's the deal, though. It's not that simple, and the reason is multifaceted, but the two main reasons are, one, as I said, he's on the books for a ton of money, so I don't think the Jets are going to be able to afford his contract the way it is, so either they're going to have to renegotiate his contract, or they're going to have to convince the Packers to not only trade Aaron Rodgers, but pay a ton of money to not have Aaron Rodgers on their team, which neither of those are going to be appealing for the Packers or the Jets if it's the first one. So that's the first reason why this is tough. The second reason that this is tough is because the Packers don't need to do anything. Now, they should, because I think that if they don't trade Aaron Rodgers, he just will sit out and won't play, which, I mean, would you rather pay $30 million a year to get rid of Aaron Rodgers and have him play for the team he wants and get some stuff in return for it? Or would you rather pay $50+ million for him to sit on the bench and not do anything for you all year and have it be drama and all the press, it's all they're going to talk about, and just have that be kind of a cloud over your team, especially your young quarterback in Jordan Love, who you're hoping becomes your next Aaron Rodgers, as difficult as that will probably be. But, that's what the Jets and the Packers are facing. And the bad thing for the Jets is he's not a free agent, and he's not even a guy who's has 1 year left in his contract. Pretty sure he has 2 years left in his contract. He might only have one, but, either way, he's not somebody who has a lot of leverage at this point, other than just not playing, which if he doesn't play, obviously he's subject to millions and millions of dollars in fines. So, the Packers hold all the leverage at this point in terms of, what they can do. Because, yeah, sure, Aaron Rodgers can say he intends to play wherever the heck he wants, but he's not under contract with whoever the heck he wants. He's under contract with the Packers. So the Packers can basically just sit on their hands and ask for the moon, and basically if the Jets don't pay the moon, then they can just do nothing and see what Aaron Rodgers does. And if Aaron Rodgers decides, okay, I'm not going to play for you then guess what? They get millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in fines, and they can just hold Aaron Rodgers and hold the Jets hostage until then, which, again, that might not sound like a good idea to any of you guys listening at home, or that might not sound like a nice thing to do, but they can do it. So, you're allowed to franchise tag players for 3 years in a row, and they can't do anything about it. So, I mean, look what happened to Kirk Cousins. The now Commanders just kept franchise tagging him and franchise tagging him and franchise tagging him. He couldn't go on the open market. He kept trying. And they kept saying, nope, you're coming back. And so by the time he became a free agent, he was almost 30 years old. So, like, the Packers can just franchise tag Aaron Rodgers for the next 3 years if they wanted to and hold him hostage for as long as they see fit until he retires or until, he just gives up and stays. I'm not saying they will, and I'm not saying they should, because they probably won't and definitely shouldn't. But they could, which is bad for the Jets, because the Jets, I think their best kind of leverage was Elijah Moore, who is a young, very talented, underappreciated, high draft pick wide receiver who didn't amount to much and who's being buried on the depth chart in New York for reasons I'll never comprehend. And they just traded him to Cleveland. Like, if you'd have thrown Elijah Moore in there, that's a perfectly reasonable player to trade at this point, who's young, who's controllable, who's very talented, and could really reap benefit for Jordan Love and for the Packers and himself. But now he's a Cleveland Brown, so you have that gone, and all you got in return was basically moving up 30 or so picks in the draft. Yeah, you have back-to-back second-round picks, which might be useful in trading for Aaron Rodgers, but the Packers can just sit and say, okay, yeah, give me your first pick, give me both your seconds, give me your first next year, give me 2 more seconds, and I'll think about it. And the Jets have to do what they say. They don't have to trade those things, but the Packers don't have to do anything. It's not like Rodgers can sue. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but I doubt it. He can't just breach his contract, because then he's liable for legal action. So it's just one of these things where the Jets are kind of in a tough spot right now. Now, people might say, oh, the Jets have all the leverage because Rodgers says he wants to play for them. Okay, well, Jason Tatum can say he wants to play for the Lakers all he wants. He's not getting traded to the Lakers, barring catastrophe. So, it's the same thing. Rodgers can say whatever he wants. He can say, I want to play for the Jets. All right, great. But the Packers still own his rights. They're still paying his contract. They have all the leverage. So I'm hoping that it gets done eventually. And now, listen, I'm not wanting him to play for the Jets because I don't want him in my division as a Patriots fan. But unfortunately, that's where it seems to be going. And let's be honest with ourselves, I feel like the Patriots, if Aaron Rodgers is in the division, it's not going to make a ton of difference because the Patriots are going to either be the 3rd worst team in the East or the 4th worst team in the AFC East. So, doesn't really matter. You're probably not making the playoffs either way, but I just don't want to have to play Aaron Rodgers twice a year. I mean, it's just, you think about, listen, Mac Jones is fine, but think about it this way. If Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets, you have guaranteed that 6 games a year at minimum, you have the worst quarterback. Because if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets, Mac Jones is the worst quarterback in our division. A former first-round pick who made a Pro Bowl his rookie season is the worst quarterback in his division if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets. So, you're guaranteed, and listen, having the better quarterback doesn't mean you're going to lose all 6 games. But it doesn't help. Like, if you have the better quarterback, you're going to feel a lot better about your chances of winning than if you don't have the best quarterback on the field. And it's not like Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen are slightly better than Mac Jones. No, they're leaps and bounds better than Mac Jones. Now, Tua, you can say at his peak is clearly better than Mac Jones. He showed it this year, but Tua is not always on top of his game, and obviously he's had injury concerns, so, you could say whatever you want about all that, but if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets, Mac Jones is the worst quarterback in that division. So, I don't want that, but I do want that for the sake of football, because while I do think players have too much power, at times anyway, not all the time, but at times, certainly, I think that teams should not hold guys hostage. Think about it this way. I'm a wrestling fan, okay? Big wrestling fan. If I read online that Chad Gable hates WWE and he's treated super poorly and no one likes him backstage and he wants to go to AEW, and the higher-ups don't want to do anything with him. They don't have any plans for him. They just say, you know what, you're just going to go home and you're going to sit there for the rest of your contract and you're not going to do anything. At that point, I would rather WWE let him go and let him live his life and let him be happy somewhere else than for them to just send him home and hold him hostage. I feel like that's a little bit douchey. Now, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is so miserable that, you know, they're treating him so poorly. And I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if he has told them, I'm not happy here, I want to leave, they should not strong arm whoever he says he wants to play for so badly that he's held hostage for a year, or 2 years, or 3 years. Now, certainly get the best deal you can if you're the Packers. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a difference between getting the best deal you can and operating in bad faith. And I just don't want the Packers to operate in bad faith. Now, I'm not saying they are operating in bad faith. I have read nothing of the kind. But I've seen football teams operate in bad faith before when it comes to players. Again, you know, what comes to mind is Kirk Cousins, Le'Veon Bell, another one that comes to mind. So I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that this is solved quickly so we can all move on and enjoy football. And quite frankly, I'm a little tired of talking about Aaron Rodgers' trade and Packer I want to leave escapades, because I feel like it's been happening for like 5 years now. Just go already. And again, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is trying to go. And, you know, maybe the bad faith thing isn't even true, because he has claimed that the Packers have been lying and not telling the truth and maybe even operating in a little bit of bad faith. I don't think he's used those words, but that's surely what he's implying. So maybe that's not even true. But, you know, for me, I just hope that this ends, because Aaron Rodgers has been trying to get out of Green Bay for like 5 years. I just hope he goes. I just hope he finally goes where he needs to go and where he wants to go. So, Packers, Jets, figure it out. Get it done so we can all move on and we can enjoy some football once August rolls around. All right. That's going to do it for me, guys. I appreciate you tuning in for this episode of the podcast. Like I said at the beginning, please like, share, subscribe, all that fun jazz. I appreciate you all so much. The channel has been doing so great, and I'm just so very thankful. So, with that being said, that's all for me this week, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends, because, you know, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.